Hello students, let's proceed with chapter number 8, how do organisms reproduce, and our today's topic is sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So let's see diagram of a plant. This is a plant and we can see roots here and stem and branches and leaves. All these parts are known as vegetative parts, and if a plant propagates from these parts, then the propagation is known as vegetative propagation. But flowers possess the sexual organs, so sexual reproduction occurs through flowers. Let's have a look at some of the flowers. Are they flowers? No, they are not flowers. They are groups of flowers known as inflorescence. That is not included in your syllabus. I have only shown you these pictures for general information. Let's have a look at some flowers now. These are flowers. These colored leaf-like structures are known as petals, and if you can see over here, small red colored lobes are visible. These are what? These are stigma. So that is a part of the female part. Now here, look at this picture. These white leaves, they are petals, and here yellow parts here, these are anthers, and this small white part inside is the female part. We will discuss all these parts in detail. Let's have a look at some more flowers. So these are also flowers. What are the parts of these flowers known as? Let's discuss about that. This is LS of a flower. The stem part which possesses the flower is known as pedicel, and these green leaves are known as sepals. Wall of sepals is known as calyx. These beautiful and colored leaf-like structures are known as petals, and wall of petals is known as corolla. And then these purple colored structures are known as anther lobes, and this stalk-like structure, yellow-colored stalk-like structure is known as filament. Anther lobes and filament combined are known as stamens, and stamens are the male parts of the flower. Now look at this central structure. Here the upper part of this structure is known as a stigma. Then it is followed by an elongated part which is known as style, and then the basal swollen part which is known as ovary. Ovary consists of ovule inside. So this entire structure is known as pistil or carpel. This is female part of the flower. So now let's see these parts in pictures of our own flowers. These pink colored leaf-like structures are known as petals, and these long stalks are known as filaments. They possess small anther lobes on their anterior ends, and anther lobes and filaments constitute stamen, that is the male part. And here in the center we can see a female part. This is style, and this upper portion or the anterior part is known as stigma. So this is the part of a female part which is known as pistil or carpel. Let's have a look at another flower. See, these white structures are known as petals, and stigma. This white trilobed structure is known as a stigma. It is followed by an elongated stalk-like structure which is again white colored, is known as style. These two are the parts of pistil or carpel or female part. Now look at these structures. These yellow colored structures are what? These are known as anther lobes, and they are placed on elongated stalks which are known as filaments. Anther lobes and filaments constitute stamen or the male part of the flower. These flowers may be of two types depending upon the presence of male and female parts. If a flower is having either male or female part, then it is known as unisexual flower. So it may be either pistillate having the female part, or it may be staminate having male part. So uni means single sexual. So only one sex is present, either male or female. But bisexual flowers, they possess both male and female organs. So these are the types of flowers. Now let's see what happens inside the male part or inside the stamen. This is anther lobe, and here inside the anther lobes the sporogenous tissue is present which undergoes meiosis, and Meiosis is a kind of reductional division where the chromosome number is reduced to half. So if the sporogenous tissue here is diploid, then after meiosis, the chromosome number will reduce to haploid. So meiosis occurs inside the anther lobes and pollen grains are produced. So this is one pollen tetrad. Tetrad means group of 4. 3 cells are visible here on the front side and the fourth one may be on the back side. These tetrads then separate from each other and pollen grains are visible here. These pollen grains are the structures which reach to the female part and then they produce the male gamete or the male germ cell. Now let's have a look at the female part also. This is the female part known as pistil or carpel. The anterior part of pistil is known as the stigma. It is sticky or hairy. Why? Because it is the structure which will trap the pollen grains here. Then it is followed by an elongated portion which is known as a style, and it leads to the lower swollen part which is known as ovary. Ovary possesses ovule. Ovule possesses a female germ cell where the fertilization occurs. So this is about the female part. But how the male germ cell or male gamete will reach into the ovule and it will reach up to the female part? There is a proper procedure. Pollen grains will come here on the stigma. They will form pollen tubes. Pollen tubes will carry the male gamete and then they will reach inside the ovule where fertilization of male and female germ cell will occur. Don't be impatient. We will discuss all these things in detail later on. Right now, the important point is how these pollen grains will reach the female part. So dispersal of pollen grains from male part to the female part is known as pollination. This pollination is of two types, self-pollination and cross-pollination. If pollination occurs within the same flower, then it is self-pollination. If it occurs with another flower, then it is known as cross-pollination. And various agencies help in the pollination. Some of the agencies may be wind or water or insects or some other animals as well. See, if you look at the flower, sometimes you will see small insects lying inside. These insects actually help in the pollination of such flowers. Now, let's have a look at the events after pollination. So the pollen grains will reach on the stigma of the female part, and all the pollen grains, if they find this stigma compatible of the same species, then they will start forming pollen tubes. These pollen tubes actually carry male germ cell. So the pollen tubes go deep. They elongate and reach up to the ovary and ovule part. This is this is known as ovule part. So ovule is having embryo sac. This is embryo sac within the ovule. Embryo sac is a 7-celled 8-nuclear part and it is having female germ cell or egg inside it. So when pollen tube reaches to the ovule, it enters the ovule, it gets burst and the male germ cell is released, and then it is followed by the fusion of male germ cell and female germ cell. So this is how fertilization occurs. So what is fertilization? Fertilization is the process of fusion of male germ cell and female germ cell. We can call the germ cells as gamete also, one and the same thing. So fusion of male gamete with the female gamete is known as fertilization. And what is produced as a result of fertilization? Zygote is produced. Male gamete, if it is haploid, the female gamete is haploid, then the zygote will turn out to be diploid. So this is how, if the parent plant is diploid, the gametes are haploid because meiosis occurs during the formation of gametes and chromosome number is reduced to half. So when the fusion occurs, then again the same parental genotype is restored. So this is how the genotype is maintained here in a species. But fertilization is of two types in the plants. and that is known as double fertilization. The first is the simple one which we have already discussed, syngamy or reproductive fertilization, in which male nucleus fuses with the female nucleus and results in the formation of a zygote, and this zygote forms embryo after mitotic divisions. Second kind is vegetative fertilization. What happens here? One more male nucleus fuses with the secondary nucleus or the polar nuclei present in the center of the embryo sac, and primary endosperm nucleus is formed, which is triploid, and it also divides mitotically to form the endosperm. When embryo starts growing from the zygote, it derives nourishment or nutrition from the endosperm. So this is about double fertilization, but this is not included in your syllabus, so I have told you just for the sake of information. Now let's come back to the previous diagram. So what happens here? When the pollen tube enters here, fertilization occurs. So this ovule, it produces a thick coat over it, and then it matures into or ripens into a seed. And the ovary in which the ovule was placed, it further matures and ripens into the fruit. So ovule makes the seed and ovary makes the fruit. So ripened ovary is known as fruit and ripened ovule makes seed. So let's have a look at some of the fruits. Beautiful fruits, isn't it? You might be laughing. Who says that these chilies and tomatoes and brinjals, they are fruits? They are known as vegetables, but biologically they are fruits. So these all are fruits. They all have been formed from ripened ovary. So if you cut these fruits, let's say we cut the fruit of brinjal, what would you see? You would see small seeds inside. Seeds have been produced from ovules. Fruit has been produced from ripened ovary. So this is about some of the fruits. Now let's have a look at the seeds inside. This is a fruit. If we cut it, we see structures like this. These are seeds. So ripened ovary makes the fruit, and ripened ovules which were present inside the ovary, they give rise to seeds. So this is how seeds are produced. These seeds are again of two types, monocot seed and dicot seed. If a seed is having single cotyledon, it is known as monocot seed, but if the seed is having two cotyledons, that is known as dicot seed. Let's have a look at some of the monocot seeds. All the grasses, maize, rice, these are monocot plants, so their seeds are known as monocot seeds because they consist of single cotyledons. Let's have a look at some of the dicot seeds. So these are dicot seeds. Pulses, beans, grams, these are dicot seeds. If you soak these seeds in water for some time, then you can easily remove the seed coat here, the brown covering, outermost covering here, or this dark reddish covering here in case of beans. And if you remove the seed coat, you will get two parts from inside. So these two parts are what? These are cotyledons. Because these seeds, they have two cotyledons, they are known as dicot seeds. But the purpose of reproduction has not completed yet, because the reproduction is producing new individuals. How these seeds will give rise to new individuals? So that is followed by a process which is known as seed germination. So what happens here in the seed germination? If a seed gets favorable environmental conditions, it means sufficient water is provided to the seeds, then this seed starts the process of germination. The food inside the cotyledons, that is reserved food material inside the cotyledons, two cotyledons are visible here, that reserved food material is used by the developing embryo. So embryo starts taking the form of a small plantlet. So it forms plumule and radicle. What is plumule? The future shoot is known as plumule. So plumule is the anterior part of this embryo which gives rise to the shoot system. Similarly, this is radicle. Radicle is future root. So radicle gives rise to the root system, and it is the downward part. So what happens here? Till the reserved food material is here in the cotyledons, that is used by the developing embryo, and when it develops further, radicle forms a root and plumule forms a shoot. So small leaves arise here. These small leaves then start performing photosynthesis. Once they start performing photosynthesis, the food is formed, and then this food is provided to the root also. So root also develops further. So this way, slowly and slowly, a new plantlet is formed, a new plant is formed. This is how reproduction occurs in case of the plants. So that is all about this topic. Thank you so much, and see you all in the next video.